All right, hello, welcome everybody. Season 1, episode 39. This time I actually checked before recording. Now, it might be a noisy stream. It's Sunday for me, so my daughter is at home and she's being potty trained. So if you hear shouts of poo poo in the background, don't be worried. We're not being invaded by homeless people trying to poo in our house. It's just my daughter. Um, Hopefully that is gonna be a short phase and you should learn soon. And if you think that training animators to use a rig is hard, like you should try and potty train somebody. Um, Potty training a young animator might actually be even worse. Anyway, so we left things in pretty decent shape to re-acknowledge everything we have in the rig. We've done the god node, the leg global, the foot, and there was a slight modification I made to the leg global in reparenting the up vector, which I might actually transmit to the other side because it doesn't seem that I need to do the whole export song and dance twice. I might get away without it. So what I want to do today is relay out the leg in the same fashion that I have done the rest, so that I can finally share this scene again. And I might do a little bit of offline work to do the other side. I feel that the important part here is re-acknowledging the leg itself, and doing the negatively scale side is going to be enough for that. So let us get on with that. Same song and dance of before. Looking at the inputs and outputs is always useful, and working between the two. So leg output, where are you? There you go. So the only output we have from the leg is the end of the chain. The blending is done inside the leg. Now the leg should be receiving from the god node, and tempted to say, yeah, it will receive from the god node, it will receive from the leg global for the IK. IK will be included between the god node and the leg global. So it will receive the offset from the foot and get the positioning of the foot in word space from that, whereas the FK should simply obey the last transform, or whatever transform we choose for it to obey from the god node. So the boundary should be pretty straightforward. Let's verify those. So end word, still not a fan of that name, but I got nothing better for now. Row ankle control, which we're using to get the control of the ankle, then the rolled ankle, so that we can get that displacement down there and get just that displacement multiplied by that. And I don't know if, yeah, even with the guide on, this is doing work. You can see that right now it's having an effect on the up vector because it is being guided, but if we de-guided it, that should not happen. It should be fine. And so yeah, that seems pretty much on par with expectations. I eyeball my audio settings, by the way, so if anybody in chat can tell me if you hear clipping, please let me know, because I had a little bit of a mishap with my recording stuff. So for now it seems fine. Now these are the inputs. Next thing that we want to sort them, yeah, I'm recording, that's cool. Next thing we want to have a look at is the guide. That's actually going to be doing a lot of work here. It's probably the, come on, the more complex guide. This is my scene, I did use a constraint here for the up vectoring, because I didn't want to do everything with the myriad of nodes, but I think it's been decycled. There is a video about that. So our guide has the hip position, which is doing the work we expect it to do, the knee position, and there is a limit that we've enforced in the IK solver for how far back it can go. Now the positioning of these legs, I mean, they might need to be remodeled. So normally you will get something that fits and you will get a rest pose that is better than this garbage, but let's put it not against the limit. So guide it like that. Let's start working to some, reasonable parameters. And translate Day039. Okay, so this is in the parent space of the heap position, which is rotated. My daughter is desperate because she's not sitting at the adult table right now. Now, what I was saying is, this has, don't care for this tiny offset here. Translate why, what were those doing? Okay, don't care for those really. No, actually I think I was eyeballing these in place and it just turned out to be very, very close to being flat with the god node. Probably because I positioned the god node in a right position. -2, yeah, seems legit. So where does the position of these come from? Let's take away the filter here. So the guide is there, -2. All right, so this is good. I'll keep it planar. I mean, this is perfectly capable of going off that plane, but I just don't want to deal with values where they're all different. So if I need to check for a discrepancy, that becomes more painful than it should be. All right, we can move on to actually sorting this stuff out. So, guide. Probably don't want the two parameters. Same thing from elsewhere. This has got a bunch of plugs for the system that toggles the guides to know basically what to connect and disconnect. Don't really care for those all that much. Control, the form, guide, the component part we don't really care about. Disorganizes the FK, might be okay to have it. It means that there's probably, no, the IK we're just leaving right under the parent, so that's okay. We can probably, because this seems reasonable to sort out, we can probably sort that out. Yeah, let's start with that. I don't know if you can hear my daughter. This is that stage of life where they've started learning a bunch of phrases. They get somewhat abused. She broke a crayon. All right. Sorry, this is it was a bit of a silence there. I was contemplating my daughter for a second. And handedness, it's the same thing that we had in the leg global. These are all the various FK items. They're all under control. So this, yeah, this seems like a good opportunity thing to do. This is simply gonna be heading it. Okay, at this point, the form part, the guide will be before everything. The form part should be pretty trivial. So I would expect to have this stuff here to be, yeah, it's in hierarchical order, which makes the blending, you know, behave appropriately so that we can blend angles instead of blending positions between FK and IK, and we don't get weird positional stuff going on. Now, I'm tempted to say I'm gonna pin the lot. Did I? Or yeah, it is pin. So that way I can just manually pin, unpin whatever I need. And the form, control, time to sort out the stuff that is in the guide. Two parameters we don't care. Tag nodes for the guide. So, see, this is the part that's always funky about having constraints. The fact that they have a DAG presence, I can't say I love it. So these constraint, I thought I had decycled it. So it's taking the target knee pose. All right, I'm constraint rotate buffer. So I don't like that it is here. So it's taking the parent. This is part again. I did a video. It's like only 20 minutes on how to make constraints acyclic, and I think these is that. And the target is somewhere else here, which is okay. So that's all correct. It means that I should be able to take it and place it there, because I really don't like that it's affecting. It's completely, there's no point to it being under the knee pose other than, you know, it's how you order things. Because it's a DAG node, you might think that it has a transform or whatever, it doesn't. So let's do that. And someone in chat was asking, just tuning in, what are we trying to solve right now? It's the same work that I've done for the last stream, which is basically tidying up the rig, re-acknowledging everything because I took a long break, and preparing the scene so that it can be handed over. So saving bookmarks and everything, fitting the various components to some geometry, so stuff like that. So it's relatively trivial stuff, and if people are watching these episodes, they're binging and watching them back to back. These might all be relatively fresh in some minds, but oh, come on, go away. It was parented there because I was probably trying to do that. So yeah, if you're watching these back to back, I mean, you might look at it and go like, oh, I look at these stuff like 2 days ago, I remember all of it, but I had a long break between episodes. So control buffer, control. Up vector. Okay, this is less. This is annoyingly less. I mean, it's still pretty annoying having constraints, but if they're acyclic, I'm okay with them. They're just a little bit wasteful. But with the factory nodes, you kind of gotta deal with it, because there's some stuff like a name constraint with all the bells and whistles like we need it, will probably take, we'll take a couple more nodes that I care for. But if you actually use Sergey's excellent math nodes, you can do it in, I don't know, maybe 4 nodes, and you get some intermediate data out of it. So FK, HRC, oh, this is actually pretty important in the controls, because this is the handedness. I mean, I discussed this literally last stream. The handedness is what we use for the negative scaling trick. I don't want to hide stuff, but it is what basically gives the leg, the rotation controls over here, a mirror behavior compared to the ones on the other side. For your guide, you should be fine in any case, right? Using constraints. Yeah, the guide eventually is gonna go away, so yes. It's less of it's not a problem, to be honest. I don't want to start, another dogma like constraints are bad. Like for years people had like, oh, expressions are bad and this is bad and that is bad, when the right tool at the right time is not bad. Constraints, if you decycle them, are perfectly fine. And I mean, in a guide you might even have them with cycles. If you're constantly reparenting stuff and you don't want to re-hook up the parent space and stuff like that, the guide isn't really performance sensitive, so yeah, it is fine. And unless you care about maybe your tooling is aggressive about reporting cycles, in which case you go like, well, I don't want a cyclic constraint in my graph period. But yeah, but even in a rig proper, a few constraints can be perfectly fine, especially if you have to work vanilla. And I know a lot of people have to work vanilla because they have this thing where they go like, oh, if we need to hand out our rigs to another shop, we cannot have custom nodes in our rigs. Which, you know, at some scales, like, that's nonsensical. There are some very large companies that can perfectly well afford to distribute their nodes for whatever platform their collaborators are working on, but don't do it. I find that misguided, but there are some shops that are, you know, maybe small and on Windows and collaborate with somebody that is on Linux and have no way to build reliably for that Linux, or, you know, or vice versa. Like, it's perfectly reasonable. In some cases, you gotta go vanilla. And all right, so this is, let's say, processing the output. So I would like to get, now see, I need a couple scripts because there's something that is super useful, but you need to script it. You can, unless Autodesk change it, you can select downstream, oh, come on. You can select downstream nodes. So this is, come on, select items in stream, and you can go select upstream and select downstream. The problem is you can't step it. So what I normally do is I have a script to do that, and because it's pretty fast, like especially if you do it with OM2, I might have to just do it at some point if we use the node editor so much and I don't distribute it. It is almost never that I want to select from one node. I go like, yeah, sure, select the whole world, not in rigging at least. But it's very common that I select something and I want to go, give me the next dependent node, so the next downstream node. And then if you want more than one, you can just, it's super fast, so you can just tap the shortcut a few times. So I should probably do that at some point. Anyway, so let's see. I think I have a pretty decent idea of what we're doing, but again, let us reacquaint ourselves with all of these. Now, the config parameters are what configures the components, so those we most definitely want to have around. Those are receiving from the guide, which is also cool and expected. So let's collapse that for a moment. Let's see what it is. Oh, very good. Very good, I like that. So it's receiving some very simple stuff. And these are femur length, hip local matrix, guide tibia length. So this is what gets us the length of the bones, which we use a lot. And it's receiving from the config. No, they're coming from the guide and being fed into the config. Also good, also expected. No surprises yet. Nothing dumb. So that makes sense. Time to save. It's not like the last stream we had a crash for just moving nodes around. That never happens. Now the input should always be upstream of everything. So if you have your upstream, like your input leftmost, and you find that with just the component members properly selected, you have stuff going into it, you might have an issue, because this has to be re-entrant if you want to rig this way. Sorry, it has to be non-re-entrant graphs if you want to rig this way. Still good. So this is the input, processing the input and the guide in concert with it. Now this is receiving a bunch of stuff. What is it gonna be? Looks like we're processing something here as well. Yeah, okay. Leg guide input, output. Okay, yeah, this is just a conversion node, so we're still fine. We're taking a matrix, turning it into scale, rotate, translate, and this is in word space basically, so it's receiving that. We're still cool. Now this is a bit of a long resolution where the input plus a lot of work from the guide. Yeah, that's fair enough. So this is the one that's processing the hip position, which you do expect, like it comes from the guide. No, it has to grab the guide. There's a bunch of work done in there. So that seems fair. Now a lot of that is going straight up into the joints, which also makes perfect sense. So I imagine this is going out because it will be the hip joint, which it is. Now the config parameters are going straight into the second and third joint. That is also okay because it's probably almost certainly going just in the translate. Yeah. So what is happening is those are the lengths of the femur and the tibia, and you can place pretty much the next joint based on your guide. So also cool. And this is the guide part that's going to get blasted away. Right now we're deriving those things, but the expectation is that, you know, you have femur length and tibia length, so you can change them, and it changes the behavior of the IK and the positioning of a bunch of stuff. And the guide is basically taking over those parameters. So still no surprises. Now, this looks like something I want to move in a single chunk. So this is total length F node, and F node is for factory node, that is the type of node for the operation total length. So this is the total length of the leg. It's taking the femur and the tibia and adding them. Yes, that's good. This is the length limit. Oh, very good. I'm liking this. Hip to ankle distance, also good. So this is giving us the distance between these two items, the hip wherever it is and the ankle wherever it is, and that needs to be compared with the maximum length of the tibia, tibia and femur added. So that basically tells us when the IK is overreaching, when it's basically out of boundaries. Now we're using a set-driven key, I guess people will call it, but I think we wired these manually to clamp the distance. I wonder if I had a input and max, because I was about to say, so no, it's not a set-driven key. Good on me, because I was about to say I think I would normally, like, I should have used a normal clamp. This is a clamp. I was fooled by the icon. You could do it with both actually, but in this case just use a clamp. It makes a lot more sense. And you can clamp a handful of items at once. In this case we're using it for just one, but that's okay. So subscribe with Twitch Prime. Thanks, man. I don't know if I'll ever see a Twitch or YouTube payout, because they have minimums. Like I know for YouTube it's $100 in advertising, and I don't know, in 2 years I think YouTube made like $60. Because I have the, you know, I encourage people to use an ad blocker. I put ads on the videos for the record. In case I might have mentioned it before, I put ads on the videos because somebody I know that is pretty damn good at YouTube is telling me it actually does make a difference in the search response, which makes sense. You know, YouTube is more likely to promote a video that has advertising in it than it is, you know, for your next view or whatever, than it is one that doesn't have. So that's when I activated the ads. There used to be no ads on my videos. I don't know if it made a difference. I don't roll the numbers that he does, but that's why there are those ads. Feel free. You're not robbing me of anything if you use an ad blocker. In, you know, 2 years or whatever it's been, I think YouTube has made $60. And if nobody used an ad blocker, it might maybe have made like $200 or something like that. This is over years. And like, YouTube is no money unless you have like a gazillion subscribers. So anyway, that's some idle chat because I wanted to do this. Now this bothers me a little bit. I am, in fact, I'll freely admit. Oh, okay, no, this does not bother me. For a second, I was just completely misreading the directionality of this. No, this is fine. So what this is doing is, oh, come on. This is part of the constraint setup for the aim. So this is just processing the input, turning a matrix into scale, rotate, translate. Or in Maya, it's translate, rotate, scale, TRS. So still processing here. Now what is happening, like, is this is going that way, then, you know, it's not a cycle, basically. If you organize it like this, it's not a cycle. I don't know if my, you know, what little OCD I suffer for, I'm okay with these going like that, because this is just a hierarchical relationship and this precedes that one. Even if two lines are crossing, you know, if you have a stronger OCD than I do, and I know some of my viewers definitely do, feel free to rearrange it. This scene will be yours to keep very soon, and all my scenes are Creative Commons. So anyway, so the form is here. All the translate for the def form has been done. So what do we have here? Let's enough denoodling. So config heap ankle distance. This is what we're talking about. This is the limit to know when we need to overreach or not. Sorry, when we're overreaching or not. Displacement, hip to ankle displacement. That's that one. So that displacement is basically, I think this one we can show comfortably. Oh man, what is, I forget. I want to, okay, no, I didn't forget. Did I forget? No, I didn't. Cool. Sorry, I wanted to change the actual angle of the lens a little bit, because I might have changed it wrong anyway. So what is happening there is, when this kind of thing, come on, when this kind of thing happens, now the guide is obviously compensating for it. Once you've overshot your max distance, which comes from summing the length of the femur and tibia, and that is without stretch IK, like it would change only slightly if we had soft IK. Then we basically need to know the max distance, and that's taking that displacement, because the direction is correct, normalizing it, then multiplying it by the actual length of the two that we want, and that will basically do, you know, the IK thing where your handle could be here, but the effector, and I think the effector is Maya language for it, is going to be, you know, stuck here but going in that direction. So that's what we're doing there. That is as it should be. The rolled ankle frame, that's fine. That's probably a processing, yeah. So that's taking the raw ankle control and it's transforming it into, yeah, it's extracting the rotation because we need it for the limited ankle. So the limited ankle is basically we'll reframe things. Those shenanigans I just talked about where we'll get stopped there. Then we care about the rotation of the ankle control as we have it. So yeah, we're using these. And we're being a bit lazy. We're putting it in word space so that we don't need to do any processing. If these were somewhere down some hierarchy, you would also need to transform it. But we've done a million times, and I'm sure it makes sense to most at this point. So the limited ankle in word space, ankle displacement, tension rotation, IK SRT buffer. So the IK tension rotation is, this is an angle between, this is basically the solution to solve a plane. What is happening is when we're doing that, you could call it a chord, you could call it a tension, like they will both be slightly incorrect anyway. It's basically the one that's going to tell us, okay, between some fixed vector, you know, probably coming out of the God node, and wherever our vector, like our direction for the leg is pointing at, give me that line, give me that angle basically. And that basically is what gets us these, let's show it. Yeah, because this is guided, it's fair enough. I have one dubbed here about one thing. So when I do that, the leg IK buffer is moving, and I need to investigate that. Let me save these and let me save a new copy. I'm saving them in the wrong place, am I not? So if everything still goes well, this is in the leg, so I should be able to de-guide the leg. Oh, I keep doing this. Sorry, I don't have the plugin for the guide de-guide loaded. I gotta do that. So all I've done is loaded the plugin that's already available. So if I swap that, and then, so this is now the behavior that I would expect. It's very good. Now at that point, so the behavior is still good. Where does that end? I will be honest, I'll need to look at that because this is... Okay, fair enough. So without the guide, this is always going to be there. It's, I think I'm just confusing myself and I don't need to bother with it. What was confusing me is that position where I was expecting that. So this is good. This is here now. Alright, for some reason it was appearing up there. I did not hallucinate that, right? But anyway, doesn't matter. So that's still fine now. That is our AK SRT buffer. I must be selecting something stupid or wrong. I'll ignore that for now because the behavior is correct. I will definitely have a look at it offline though, because it bothers me that I don't understand. If somebody noticed me like making some mistake in selecting, please let me know, because that is super annoying to me. Now the next part we have here is the IK up vector heap projected. So we have, what we're doing here is we have the axis of the heap, and then to find the roll angle, this is part of the IK stuff. To find the roll angle, you basically want to take these in word space, and there's a plane that's given to you by this vector, and you project that on that. So I'm not gonna re-explain how it's done or exactly why it's done, because the IK episodes are actually, I feel, pretty decent, and they seem to have been very well received, so not gonna re-explain all of it. Now that is going out to a bunch of stuff, and I hope it's not re-entering. So this is going guide. Okay, so the guide can sometimes be interspersed between other items, which is normal because you don't want to rebuild the whole rig. You want the guide to affect the guts of the graph, so that's okay. It makes for some long cycle, well, not cycle, sorry, for some long subtrees to wrangle, but it's not terrible. So these are the config parameters. Sorry, laughing at my daughter. So this is still the config. Oh man, this is gonna look ugly that way, but I don't want to mess the whole graph like that. But let's super quickly, this might be super tiny for you on the stream, sorry, on the, yeah, on your monitor, unless you're at 1440, but so this is receiving, oh, I get it. Okay, yeah, we're fine. Heap SRT, so this is receiving from this chain of operations. It's receiving from up here. The important thing, I guess, and this is where you go, okay, select upstream. This is one of the rare cases where you will select everything upstream. See, this is going out. When you have something that is going out that way, right? So this is downstream of it. This is a good way to find cycles. If you go, not always, it's not 100% reliable, but if you select downstream and you find that it gets you an upstream node or vice versa, and normally those are gonna be, like if one happens, the other will. then you know you have a cycle. Because selecting upstream should just be walking this way, and then for some reason it re-enters and it finds these. Now this bothers me. What I need to check, I'm gonna leave it in there for now. What I need to check is whether it's a benign artifact of the guide, and because this is part of the guide, so when you remove the guide, this artifact might be like this artifact itself will go away completely. Whether the cycle gets reinstated in some other fashion or not, that needs checking. And because it's been so long, I don't remember like a. I think I would have remembered if I made allowance for a cycle like that intentionally. It feels out of character, I guess. Anyway, so Legar TV. Oh, wait. What is that? Ah. What is it going out to? Say config parameters. Heap offset FK. It might even be a genuine mistake. So let me make a note of it. So I can't zoom in on this, but I'm just saying inspect the node cycle and figure out what is going on here. Now what we can do, however, is, well, first we want to save, and then we want to try and swap. So when I swap, this has got nothing downstream, which means it's not cyclic. I feel like this is a benign artifact. I still don't want it, but I feel like this is benign. That is my guess. So chat is pretty empty, but I'm curious, if you're watching these on YouTube and you made it this far, because it's been going a while now, are people actually using the de-guiding stuff with toggles? Because I know Ryan, and I don't think he's on, I think he's still on holidays now. I know Ryan got good mileage out of it. I'm curious to know if people that follow the YouTube channel regularly leave a comment in. I normally, like, I never ask for comments in my videos because when I'm streaming it's not on my mind, but when people do, they always help. Anyway, so that cycle there, I'll need to investigate a little bit. I suspect it's benign. Well, I know it's benign because when you toggle the guide, it goes away, and it didn't get us any weird behavior. Whether it was intended or not, I'm tempted to say that it's one of those things that kind of happened organically, and I didn't notice it. Now, this is fine because this is, like, again, it looks like the wires are crossing, but they're not. It's just the way the hierarchy works out. Up to you, again, how you know, what can your OCD deal with. I'll do something like that to make clear. I mean, by the colors you can tell what is DG node and what is DAG node anyway, but yeah. So what we have in there is pretty simple. Like, this should be guide stuff. So guide global encode, yes. So this is what we use to respace the FK with the guide. So they interject themselves, so that when you move these, you know, the encode control that is here still works fine. But when you remove the guide, they go away, and just the hierarchy is going to be left to do the work. Sorry, I have a window bit in my face. Woo. So that's so good. I was thinking, like, I was on the fence. I didn't know how long the leg would have taken me. I thought maybe this is going to be a half an hour thing and I'm going to get to binding. But then I remembered the leg is actually pretty, you know, it's by far the most nodes in the rig. So maybe I'm not going to be so lucky. So there you go. Now this is where I would have loved to have that script. I need to use the mouse. So this Come on. No? Do I... Is this the foreshadowing of a crash? Or something like that? Because suddenly... Okay. Not great, but... Yeah. Okay, popped. Sorry, the view was like it was not accepting my right clicks anymore. Test texture. Why? Why test texture? Did I switch mode? Probably. Whatever. No, it's probably contextual. So select upstream. So what I wanted was just the nodes upstream this way to move them around. Now, will these work? Okay, so sorry, what I was doing was the selecting above, sorry, the selecting below so that I get just these. Now, leg endedness, that's cool. This is exactly the same stuff that we've talked about in literally the last video, so I'm not gonna go over it all over again because it's exactly the same thing for the leg that it is for the foot, where there's a handedness sign that has a condition. That condition is received from the config parameters so that it can be acted upon on, you know, a configuration time when you're guiding or whatever, and that is what gets us the mirrored manipulation. It's just a small handful of negations and multiplications, so yeah, not gonna reiterate all of that. Literally last episode for the full episode 38 that was re-explained, beside the fact that I think I beat that horse's corpse to a pulp when I actually did the whole mirroring thing initially, so I reckon that's exhausted. Now I spotted another possible re-entrancy which I would like to investigate, but this is not it. Almost done. Almost done. So let's compact these a little bit. Man, 1 hour of noodling. If you like the noodling episodes, like this is gonna be like your favorite. Well, it's not even noodling really, is it? So this was... Okay, this is reasonable, I believe. Yeah, that's good. For a second I was afraid this might have been a re-entrancy, but it's not. So this is the actual blend. These chunks here, if you look at where they come from, they're receiving from the FK. These long stretches are because they also receive from the IK. Now that is gonna be, that is the blend node, so it receives from FK, from IK. The FK solution, you know, is gonna be 1, 2, and 3 bones. It's gonna be like 1, 2, and 3 something there. So this is blending the first one, which is the hip one, the femur, which is going from the hip to the knee. So still good. That might mean that these, yeah, this is also blend. So this is what I was afraid would have been a re-entrancy as well, but it's not. Oh, there you go. That's the output. Femur and SRT. That is bound to be relevant only in the DAG context. So we're also using this geometry here. We're having shapes as a diagnostic, but the shapes themselves you will probably, you will certainly delete. So these hip thingy, femur end, okay, this is definitely gonna be belonging here. Yeah. And that is leg output, so this should be on the far right. No political affiliation, just in the graph. So the joint output gets converted. This blend matrix, Okay, so this is the joint output in word space. Input rotate. So we're composing something here. We're basically getting the rotation of these in local space. The rotate from somewhere else, the translate from here. The rotate is probably going to be coming straight from the blend itself because it will be cheaper than constantly extracting everything. Yeah, ankle rotate blend. So this is actually pretty okay. So this is the blend for the ankle. It probably belongs further down because it's kind of doing its thing there. Yeah, okay. So that's good. That's all fine. It's blending the rotation from these because in IK mode you want to basically grab these and rotate and whatever is at the end respect it. Ignore that double rotation, that is because of the fact that we're in guide stage, it should go away, and convert it to a matrix, converted like output, and it's what the foot receives so that the blend works there. Almost done. Now this one, what is it? This lonely node. Hip rotation. Okay, so this is bound to be an extraction. It's part of processing what we're doing for leg hip, and this is just a straight decompose. It goes into the blend for the hip, which is receiving from the FK control, so that's okay, that's good. FKK joint. So this is taking the femur, basically taking the result of the IK and taking the result of the IK and blending. Also as expected, it will be in rotate here. Yes. And remember the translation, because we're blending rotation, so we get nice, rotational blending. The translation is just going to be coming from the configuration. Almost done. I think we have these stragglers left. It's a little bit noodly in the middle, like this stuff, this long chain of level is spacing things out, but I think it's reasonably readable. Again, I wish we had compounds, because a lot of this stuff will go like, hey, this is a compound to blend this joint or that joint. Be making things much cleaner. So negation, tibia end. Okay, this one I need to inspect. I want to make sure I understand it. This is part of the handedness. Yeah. So this is the start of the FK. This is handed negation. So this is what we've done elsewhere, where we're negating. It might be a single, yeah, I was about to say, might be a single part of the Euler. Yeah, it is. So that's very good. So we know at that point that the y-axis is the one that gets negated. So this participates in that mirroring process. There's no real good place for these. It's always going to look ugly no matter where you place it. But it does, come on, it does inform these. So, I mean, at this point, I'm kind of resigned to the fact that this is going to look like a highway of pain. You could maybe collapse these a little bit, whatever. That's an exercise for the viewer if you decide to use this scene. Okay, now this is the one that I said I want to understand. Mostly I want to see where the parent is. Okay, so we're tibia start, tibia end. So this is literally our controls, isn't it? No. IK SRT buffer, hip SRT, tibia. I'm wondering how diagnostic versus how functional this is. I mean, the tibia start is definitely functional. It's contributing to where the buffer is for the FK. Is it? Oh, I get it. Okay, I get it. So what we're doing here, now I remember, we're guiding the IK, and at the guide toggle stage, we have the plugs marked for swapping. We're basically, we're being cheap. We want a guide that is in word space where we can do something like this, which basically means solving the IK. So instead of solving twice, which is an option, but in this case we're going like, hey, okay, ignore the FK. The FK is basically going to be useless while you're in guide mode. I mean, it's going to act as an overlay basically, but I wouldn't recommend using it as part of guiding. In fact, you really shouldn't. But what is happening is that temporarily in guide state, we're hooking up the IK to the FK buffers so that we get to guide the IK and move the FK concurrently. So if I am remembering right, what is going to happen is that if I de-guide these, you will see these connections. So the blend will stay. So I would expect this to stay and I would expect this to go away. Now the control SRT buffer is receiving from handle negation, is receiving from the leg FK start, which is just a compose or decompose, which is receiving from the FK star matrix, so that will stay for sure. Let's see if I'm right. So I would expect to see these disappear. Yeah. So that makes sense. Same for this stuff when I was saying, hey, the guide is doing some magic here, but then we'll, the hierarchy will take over. If we do a swap there, you can see how this also goes away. This stays because there's no reason to, to swap that connection to nothing because these will get deleted. It's okay. I think that means the leg is done. And this is just under an hour right now. Oh, come on. Took longer than I wanted, but again, this is the biggest component we have. So I reckon I'm gonna call it here. Do we have any questions? I mean, it's a pretty straightforward episode. It's just been 50 minutes of reordering the leg. Or chit-chatting. So while I wait for the channel to see if there are questions, output, input, everything in between. We have one benign cycle we found out. I'm gonna have a quick look. Actually, while I wait for questions, I might have a super quick look for that. This is the one that was cycling. Yeah. So this is cycling because this is guide only. It's cycling because it receives from the leg hip after a bunch of work. So that leg hip really is behaving like it's the hip joint, so but it's the head of the femur. Name is a little bit misleading. So that is, it's part of what I was talking before. We're using the IK to guide the FK, I guess. What is it going out to, though? What was it going out to? So it's going out to the config parameters, hip offset of, okay. I see what we're doing. So that one is basically responsible to set a heap offset so that as we move the guide around, basically this parameter gets set, then it gets removed. Then that one goes out. It might not be a cycle when you look at the plugs. No, I don't think it is. Because this heap offset of FK then goes out to the leg or FK star matrix. And that goes all the way there. So it's not really a cycle. Okay. What is happening is that while we're doing that, as I say, we're using, we're using the guide to set parameters in the config. So when you delete the guide, you keep these values as constants, which is convenient and appropriate for a number of reasons. So it's literally, this is literally the only place where that has an effect. So let me save, and I will say that, pardon me, if instead of receiving from the heap offset, and instead of having this cycle, it might be that that parameter, I mean, I like to have it there because it tells you what the constants of that component are. But I will venture that what is actually going on here is, which one of the two is the heap offset now? So it's this one. It's doing nothing but passing something through. Okay, so I'm a lot more comfortable with it now because it's an entirely artificial constraint. So if I remove that and I do that, now I've removed the one that goes through the config. I'll reinstate it, but this receives only another one from the config, and this will go away when the guide gets deleted. So yeah, the guide still works and everything is still fine. Now what I wonder is if it will de-guide fine. Might or might not. I don't know if I want to mess with the scene. No, I'm not going to. It probably will, but I like having my constants well placed. So I like that this receives from a panel that owns only constants. And this fits into it. What you could do is separate these into two different sets of parameters. I'm using the word panels because that's what I've called them in some APIs before. A node that is used only to store attributes. That's what I sometimes call a panel. We could split these into two so that we get rid of this cycle basically. Where, yeah, because the dependency is purely because that is hosting all of the parameters. This needs the tibia length, so it's feeding the heap offset of k, and it needs circuits. Usually it's gonna need something else. It doesn't matter all that much. So yeah, it's gonna go up that way. It's probably pulling on both femur length and tibia length. Heap offset ik, but not on heap offset fk, which is what it says. Okay, so that's it. I don't need to decycle that because it's not really a cycle. Like it's not even a benign cycle. A benign cycle normally you call something that is cyclic but can be resolved. In this case, it's a, I don't know what to call it. It's a node cycle, but at the plug level, which is what it really matters, it's not actually cycle. All right, I'm calling it. No questions. I'll give you one more minute, but I think we're good. Cool. So I'm gonna do the other side off stream. And then share the scene. So you'll soon find it on code2freak.com in the files part. All right. No questions or anything. So thanks everybody for watching. It's been a pleasure. We finally got the whole rig back together. Next time around, we can actually get to the binding. So we'll, modify the geometry to be in a decent binding pose. Maybe discuss a little bit the differences between a bind pose versus an animation rest pose and stuff like that. What are some good principles for that? So it might bleed out into theory a little bit, and then start doing the work. So the end of the season is nearing. Thanks everybody for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.